Hey everybody, it's Mara Allard of Wind, Water, and Wisdom, and I thought I'd do another feng shui post today, but then I woke up and said I wanted to talk, so talk I will. I'm going to talk about forgiveness. Now, if our home is an energetic extension of ourselves, our energy matters. Our energy will reflect back to us in our home. One of the things I think everybody, for the most part, struggles with is forgiveness, forgiving ourselves. And I just actually got up this morning when I was laying in bed and thought of all the things I did yesterday that I could have said, ugh, darn it, that wasn't really good. Why'd you get mad at that person that was taking too long in the checkout line? Or why did that person irritate you? Why did you hog the TV? It could be endless of all the things that I could go down the rabbit hole of doing that is negative in my brain. So I woke up this morning and I forgave myself for being impatient in the checkout lane. I forgave myself for making a big deal about the TV. I forgave myself for those little things. If we forgive ourselves every single day for every little thing that we could beat ourselves up about, it's an act of love, and love is a higher vibration. So if you overate, if you over self-medicated, if you overworked, if you yelled at your child, if you lost it with your child, if you lost it in traffic, if you lost it at the supermarket, if you swore and you don't swear, I don't know, whatever you beat yourself up about that you do on a daily basis, if you could just get up every morning before your feet hit the ground and say, I forgive myself for those actions yesterday. In time, I'm not saying those actions should be repeated, but when we come from a place of forgiveness, it's easier to move forward in making corrections in that behavior. If we come from a place of shame or guilt, then we maybe are going to self-soothe over that shame and guilt. If you overate and then you felt bad about it, then you overeat again to feel better about it, or drink or drug or work or shop or whatever your guilty vice is. There is a plethora of them. You're going to keep doing that behavior out of shame and guilt again. And that will lower your vibration. It lowers your energy because shame and guilt is not good for us. But forgiveness, I forgive myself for that behavior yesterday. Over time, this could really help in making better decisions because you're actually looking at that behavior again in a different way. Like, darn it, I wish I wasn't impatient in the supermarket line yesterday. Can I try harder today? Okay, I'm going to try. I'm just going to try. And if I don't, I lose it again or I get impatient again in my head, I forgive myself until it sort of becomes, like they say, a habit. But how does this show up in your house? So if you're not forgiving yourself or you're beating yourself up in your brain, in your head, like, oh, darn it, I should have done that. I'm not, I watched Netflix all day. I wasn't putting in enough effort. I'm limiting myself. I can't go for that raise. Whatever your limitations you're putting on yourself or expectations, forgive yourself. Because we're only doing the best we can do every day. And when we forgive ourselves, I forgive myself for watching Netflix all day. Maybe tomorrow I'll watch it for a half day. But how it shows up in the house. Okay, so if you're always shaming and blaming, it's going to show up. So it can show up in a myriad of ways. It can show up in an overly sterile environment where your home lacks anything out of, it's all in place. Every cabinet, every dish, every surface, everything is absolutely perfect. Then that could be that you're too rigid, you're not forgiving yourself, and you're actually needing to control every aspect. You can't let go of control. Trust me, we don't want, in feng shui, we don't want abundance of clutter, but it can go the other way as well. It can show up as clutter. I'm not forgiving myself. You don't forgive yourself. You're living in that shame and guilt, and then clutter happens. And then you shame yourself for the clutter, and on it goes. But another way, which is the way it showed up for me, so you're not dealing with feelings. And so you're not dealing with feelings, you're showing up in your home. For me, my house looked like perfectly organized if you came, clean, all that. Don't open a drawer. Don't open my closets. Don't go in my basement because that's where I shoved everything away. This is before I took feng shui. I just pushed it all there. I wasn't dealing with my emotions or my feelings over certain areas in my life. That's all shoved away. behind closed doors. In my brain, shoving it back, don't want to deal with it. When I actually started decluttering and, going through those clothes hold emotions. Oh, that was, it could be 20-year-old dress that you wore on a great date and you want to keep it, or you're a guy and you ran a marathon and those are your shorts. If it really means something, keep it. But if it doesn't, if that memory no longer serves you, or that relationship is gone, or you've moved on, then let that go and deal with the feeling of letting that go, or that relationship go, or that event go. Even like my son, he was a wrestler in high school and he kept his singlet and his smelly wrestling shoes and his medals and everything. And then when I moved, he had to come back and I said, you had to take your stuff. I didn't have a basement in North Carolina, so I can't store all this stuff. And amazingly, he kept the medals, but he didn't keep the singlet or the smelly shoes and all the other things. I think he even has headgear. Like, what he needed to keep was the medal, was the reward, was the honor. All the other things were just stuff. And we hold on to it because it makes us feel safe. Because if we're in that shame and guilt, we can insulate ourselves with stuff, because stuff can make us feel safe. When we remove stuff, it can be scary because we don't feel as safe. So, I ask, can you forgive yourself for one thing today? One thing you did yesterday. What did you do? There's a list of things I can think of yesterday that I wish I handled better. So, I always will say space and grace, but forgiveness. I forgive myself for acting this way, or I forgive myself for not doing this. And then over time, you're coming at it from love. And it's easier to change behaviors from love than shame or guilt that will keep you in repetitive cycles of doing that. Have a great day.